Hey guys, so we're going to chat about some rugby news today. This is the second time we're recording this because the original went live on YouTube not so long ago and there was something wrong with the audio. I tried to fix it and couldn't really do it, so decided that the best thing to do would be to re-record instead. So we're going to talk about four subjects today. First is the Under-20s Rugby World Cup that's going on at the moment. Second is England's Rugby World Cup training squad that's just been announced. Third is Johnny Sexton's disciplinary hearing. And the fourth one is the Rugby Championship that kicks off today. So let's start with the Under-20s Rugby World Cup. So some of the results so far, we got Argentina 43, Italy 15. This is a great result for Argentina's under-20s because this Italy under-20 team are, the real deal. They've had some great results in the under-20 Six Nations. Italy have been building their under-20s program steadily over the last few years, and they've got a very competitive side for Argentina under-20s to do that to them. That is a great performance from them. Next time we have England 34, Ireland 34. So England were in the lead at the start. Ireland come over the top of them, but then with 10 minutes to go, England are 14 points down. They managed to get two converted tries to level it up. So two really good teams going hammer and tongs at it there. Ireland are the under-20s Six Nations Grand Slam champions. So that's a great result for England to get that draw, especially from the place that they were with 10 minutes to go. Next time we have France 75, Japan 12. So France, probably for me, the favourites for the tournament. That they've been the outstanding team so far. They look like they've got some, real talent in that team. Japan, by contrast, we haven't really seen, the bounce for them from their performances in the senior 2015 and 2019 World Cups yet. I do know from living in Japan that there is a lot of uptake of the game at kind of younger age levels that might take another maybe 4 years or so to actually come in at this level of this level in their system, but we should see them improving in future years. But for this World Cup, really not a great side from them. France, though, they do have a guy called, I think it's Peloso Tuilagi. They're number 5. The guy is an absolute beast, and we haven't seen him. Just have a look at some of his highlights from this competition. He is, I don't know how you're supposed to tackle him. Like, he's basically Will Skelton-esque, and he's in an under-20s Rugby World Cup. It's crazy. Next time we have Wales 26, New Zealand 27. So far, not the best New Zealand team that we've seen at this level. Not really a vintage team from them. Wales ran them close. It does look a lot closer on the scoreboard than it actually was, in that Wales scored a converted try in the last minute to make it a 1-point game. So it wasn't like Wales were actually pushing for a victory that New Zealand hung on for. But still, decent performance from Wales because there weren't great shakes in the under-20 Six Nations. So obviously well prepared for this competition. And for them, it's a decent result to run New Zealand that close. Next, then, we have Australia 46, Fiji 37. So Australia got a man sent off with about 25 minutes to go. Fiji get themselves ahead. Australia then, the last kind of 10 or 15 minutes, get 2 tries and a penalty to come over the top and win that one. Again, maybe not a vintage team from Australia. There is a lot of talent in the team, but maybe the forwards are just a little bit lacking for them. Fiji, though, if you give them a chance, they will throw the ball around, and they've got, you're always going to expect there to be, big men on a Fiji, even at under 20s level, and they really did take their chances really well. Next time we have South Africa 33, Georgia 23. So Georgia, they're improving at senior level and also at under 20s level, and I think it's not going to be too long before they're going to be a force at both levels. Probably under 20s will come sooner. South Africa, the hosts of this competition, run fairly close in that one and were made to fight for the victory. The second round of games, then we got Australia 10, Ireland 30. So Australia were ahead early on. The try they scored was an absolute peach. went from their own 22, both centres involved, and then the number 9 as a link player in between the move there as well. Ireland very forward dominated in their performance. I think only one try was scored by a back, and that was, the forwards basically pounding the line and then spreading it wide on the line for some to go over in the corner. So Ireland definitely will have to improve their back play to go further in the competition, I think. But the forwards really got business done in the second half to pull away from Australia. It was 11-10 at half time. Australia didn't score a point in the second half. Then we have France 35, New Zealand 14. So France, brilliant performance from them. Backs and forwards, fairly dominant in the game. New Zealand, not a vintage performance from them, but the pitch was even worse than the New Zealand team was. And there's at least one more game to be played on this, and I don't know how they're going to do it, because the pitch cut up everywhere. Like, it wasn't just in certain sections, just everywhere. Looked like a bit of a mudbat towards the end of the game. But again, France, with Tulagi there at 5, just how you're supposed to tackle him, I'm not sure. But all across their team, some great performances and impact from their bench as well. The next result then was Wales 41, Japan 19. So Wales getting their win and giving themselves, a chance to make a possible semi-final. Japan eliminated with this result. Again, going to have to improve at this level. Then we have a shock. We have host South Africa 26, Italy 34. So again, Italy, they do have a very tasty side at this level, but to beat the hosts and a South African team at that as well is a real feather in their cap. South Africa, they've got their work cut out now to make the knockout stages, and it's going to come down to the final round of games. Then we have Argentina 0, Georgia 20. So Argentina with that great result against Italy under 20s to begin with, but then Georgia just dominated them in this game, forwards and backs. I think that's something that Georgia, they're adding at this level especially, but also at the senior level as well, is that they realize you can't just have a dominant pack now. You've got to have the backs to go with it as well to win at the highest level. So really great performance from them there. England then kind of ran riot a bit, 53-7 against Fiji. Fiji, a bit of a hard day at the office for them. England put themselves in a great position to potentially make the semi-finals. So let's have a look at the pools at this stage now. So we have Pool A. So we've got France on 10 points, Wales on 7, New Zealand on 5, and Japan eliminated with 0 points. So France, the favourites now to progress. They're going to be playing Wales in the final game. So if they win that, they will top the pool and go on to the semi-finals. New Zealand should get a bonus point win against Japan, which will give them an outside chance to qualify for that semi-finals as a best runner-up. But I think other pools will probably get more than the 10 points that they're expected to get. Wales then, if they beat France, they will top the pool, but it's a tough ask for them. This is, an exceptional France side, but other than that, I think, losing bonus points is not going to be enough for them to make a semi-final. So they're going to have to go all out for the win to potentially get there. Then Pool B, we got England at the top with 8 points, Ireland also on 8, Australia on 5, and Fiji eliminated on 1. So England playing Australia in the final game will be looking to get a bonus point win. But, Australia do have some talented players, so not a guarantee of that. And Ireland are playing Fiji, so Ireland you would expect them to get a bonus point win, but they can't take it as kind of written that they're going to get it. They will have to work against Fiji. We saw Fiji against Australia really ran them close. Ireland will be hoping for more of what England got against Fiji, with a more comfortable ride to the semi-final. I think if both Ireland and England get bonus point wins, then both will go on to the semi-finals. And probably even if the second place team only get a win without a bonus point, there'd probably be enough to get them into the semi-finals. I think 12 points would be the most that any second place team will be able to get across the pools. Onto Pool C then. So we've got Argentina on 5 points, South Africa 5, Italy on 5, and Georgia on 4. So all to play for in the final round of games. I can't honestly see a best runners-up coming from this pool unless, maybe Australia beat England. Other than that, I can't really see it happening because the best you're going to get is 10 points, and that's going to put you kind of level with potentially New Zealand, but then pipped out if both Ireland and England win. So I think in this pool is going to be all to play for in terms of winning that final game. So it's going to be Argentina against South Africa and Italy against Georgia, and teams that win will be looking for their bonus point because that's probably going to be the difference maker. And if teams still finish on the same points, it's actually going to come down to points difference. So winning margin is going to be important as well. So we will have another look at this towards the end of next week when the final round of pool games have been played. Let's take a look at the England Rugby World Cup training squad that has been announced by Steve Borthwick. So it's a 41-man squad. Got 23 forwards there. Jamie Blamire, Dan Cole, Tom Curry, Theo Dan, Alex Dombrandt, Ben Earl, Ellis Genge, Jamie George, Johnny Hill, Maro Toji, Courtney Laws, Lewis Ludlam, Joe Marler. Who else we got then? George Martin, Tom Pearson, Val Rapava Ruskin, David Rivens, Bevan Rod, Sam Underhill, just noticed graphic is a little wrong. That's my fault. Bevan Rod, Kyle Sinclair, Will Stewart, Sam Underhill, Jack Willis, and Tom Willis. Onto the backs then. So we've got Henry Arundel, Danny Kerr, Joe Cochrane-Singh, Elliot Daly, Owen Farrell, George Ford, Max Malins, Joe Merchant, Johnny May, Caden Morley, Guy Porter, Henry Slade, Marcus Smith, Freddie Stewart, Manu Tuilagi, Jack Van Portreed, Anthony Watson, and Ben Youngs. And then we have 5 players on a rehabilitation list. They are Ollie Chesham, Ollie Lawrence, Mako Vunipola, Billy Vunipola, and Jack Walker. So we got no Luke Cowan-Dickey for this one. He misses out because he has an injury. That means he's going to miss the World Cup. We've also got no Alex Mitchell in the 9s, and then Zach Mercer is excluded as well. Mercer, I think, it's probably something to do with the fact that he is playing in France rather than form, because I think on form, he definitely gets into a 41-man training squad. You can debate whether he would make the Rugby World Cup squad itself, but certainly should be in the training squad on form. So even though he has agreed to move to, I think, Gloucester next season, I think playing in France may have counted against him, at least for this selection. It's going to be interesting as well to see with the Vunipolas if they can make it into the squad from that rehabilitation list. I think England, with the Vunipolas and Tuilagi, they've kind of gone between relying on them and not being able to play without them to trying to build a system that works without them in the team. So it's going to be interesting to see whether Borthwick decides that he's got to back these guys, especially Tuilagi in the midfield, or whether he wants to play a different way rather than that kind of crash ball and give kind of a bit more license to his centres and his backs. But we'll have to wait and see on that one. So that is England's 41-man squad. It will be pared down to I think it's 33, right, for the Rugby World Cup before then. And when that comes out, we'll have a look at that new squad, as we'll do with all the major teams as well for the Rugby World Cup. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is Johnny Sexton. He has a disciplinary hearing with the EPCR following his conduct after the final whistle in the Champions Cup final against La Rochelle. So basically, if you haven't seen what happened, Sexton went up to, he's a non-player obviously in the game, but he went up to Jacob Piper and he was shouting and complaining after the final whistle. So he may see some kind of sanction from that. But the hearing itself is to actually see, to determine whether misconduct has actually occurred or not. So it's not kind of a cut and dried case in that regard, but I think they probably will decide that it has. Then it's a case of what kind of punishment he's going to get. It is possible that the punishment could be long enough that he's going to miss the Rugby World Cup and it's going to end his career. If that happens, I can see people complaining about it. But for me, if it does happen, well, it was Johnny Sexton that did it, not, you can't really blame people for punishing him for something that he did. If he hadn't done it in the first place, then there would be no kind of ambiguity about whether he's going to make the World Cup. What I think is more realistic is that there will be a sanction that will probably affect the Rugby World Cup warm-up games and maybe the opening Rugby World Cup game that Sexton may not have played in anyway. And he may get a sanction that covers those, but will still allow him to play in the Rugby World Cup. From my point of view, I don't condone his actions. I don't like to see things like that. Loads of people talk about they love to see spice in rugby and stuff like that, but I think stuff like this, I'd rather not see in the game. I'm a Leinster fan, I'm an Ireland fan, and I'm not going to back him on this one because I just don't find that behaviour acceptable. Interesting enough as well, Sexton is up on, on a charge, if you like, but also Leinster themselves are up on a charge too, so they may see some kind of separate sanction on that. So the hearing itself is on July 13th. So once that occurs, we will probably have in our news the actual outcome of it. Final thing that we're going to talk about today then is the Rugby Championship that gets underway today. The first round is South Africa versus Australia and Argentina versus New Zealand. So South Africa, they are playing Eddie Jones Australia. Eddie Jones, generally, he gives a bit of a bounce to a team when he comes in at the start. So probably going to perform pretty well against South Africa, but I still think South Africa will have a little bit too much for them. But I think Australia, they've gotten Eddie Jones in at the right time with the Rugby World Cup this year because he tends to be able to improve teams very quickly. And that kind of first year or so, you see, some great innovation and some real good motivation and good performances from the team as well. So probably the right time for them to get him in with the Rugby World Cup coming up. Later on in his tenure, tends to kind of fall out with people and things go off the rail a little bit. So it's probably great timing for Australia to have actually hired him when they did. We then got Argentina versus New Zealand. So Argentina to beat New Zealand last year in New Zealand. New Zealand, though, they did get a losing bonus point in that game, and that was the point that actually won the championship last year. So New Zealand, over the last year or so, not in great form compared to previous New Zealand teams, compared to almost anyone else in the world. They're still in decent form and still a really good team. So, take that with a grain of salt. They will, though, be looking to win this championship again this year and potentially go for a clean sweep, starting with this game against Argentina. I feel like Argentina will give them a game kind of early on, but these type of games, a lot of the time New Zealand kind of pull away towards the end, and that's kind of what I'm expecting with this one. So in the first round, I expect South Africa and New Zealand to win and for them to be the one contesting the title, and for Argentina and Australia maybe trying to avoid that bottom place finish. There was only 1 point between them last year, so it's going to be very close. And the fact that this year it's a truncated championship because of the Rugby World Cup, there are only 3 rounds instead of the usual 6, means that winning your first game is going to be even more important. The next round of fixtures then that we have is New Zealand versus South Africa. Depending on how the first round of game go, that actually could be a decider for the championship. Going to be, either way, it's going to be really important leading up to the World Cup, because these two potentially could meet in the Rugby World Cup quarterfinal as well. So, getting the kind of the wood over your opposition in that game could be crucial going into the World Cup. Then Australia, entertaining Argentina. Australia would expect to put in a really good performance in that one. Argentina away from home, apart from the win against New Zealand last year, tend not to be as good as they are at home. So maybe Australia will win that one a little bit comfortably, but it's kind of hard to say this far out. We'll have to see how the two teams perform in the first round. And then the final round of games then is Australia versus New Zealand and South Africa versus Argentina. So Australia, Eddie Jones there at the helm, will want to kind of put down a bit of a statement against New Zealand. But New Zealand, they seem to have the wood over Australia and seem to be able to find a way to beat them, even in real adversity from kind of any position. Australia, they're going to have to be, I think, a few scores up going into the last kind of few minutes to actually be able to pull off the win there, or just get some crazy breakaway try to win it at the death or something like that. South Africa versus Argentina. South Africa, they're not going to want to take Argentina lightly, win their last kind of real competitive game before the Rugby World Cup, and players at that stage, on all of the teams are going to be playing for the Rugby World Cup places. So I think that final round, even if there are some, sort of teams who can't win anything, players still will be pushing for World Cup places. So you will expect performances to pick up. But that is the end of this video. We will have a similar one next week, probably on Thursday or Friday, depending on how I can get to it. But I hope you enjoyed this one. Hope the audio was better on this one as well, and speak to you again soon.